Leslie?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm back. Yep. Glad to be here.
It is so good. If you have not met Leslie before, you're in for a treat tonight. This is Leslie. She's a long-term friend of many of the people at Lions Den, and she has been, how many years now have we been doing Paint a Picture together?
I just counted today. It's 7. This is the 7th one. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I had to count through all the cities. That's how I remembered.
That is so funny. So, so tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this while I do a little bit of magic here in the background to get us ready to go.
Well, thank you again, Leslie Hanner. I am the owner of Capture the Art. I started this company about 8 years ago, I guess now, and I majored in art in college, switched to business, started a business later in life, met Kevin in the corporate world before that, and so here I am with 3 kids at home, doing my thing, homeschool mom now, with all the changes with the 2020 situation. But and I'm going to continue on, which is crazy. So I'm able to do my artwork at home on the side with the business. So, and things keep changing, and you guys keep having me back, and I just awesome. It's my highlight of the year. So I can't believe that it's been 7 times, and virtual again, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, I've just been trucking along, and every year is a surprise for me to see what kind of a theme we're going to do. I mean, tonight we're going to do. We just kind of went with a flower and a butterfly for new beginnings, new growth, transitions, kind of to sum up all of our experiences for the past year and a half or so. So hopefully this will, remind us to keep going, and things will be beautiful in the end, and stay strong. I mean, I don't know what else we can do, but hang tight and keep going. Let's get started. Hopefully you have all of your supplies out on a table with some table covering. And some kind of an apron on. All your paints are open. And if you haven't gotten it, go get a cup or a jar of water. We need that to rinse out our brushes. We have 2 brushes tonight. We've got a sponge brush, and we have a regular 8 round, which is, it's a beautiful green. It matches our painting. What do you know? But we also need a pencil tonight. If you don't have it handy, go grab one real quick. We do need that for the drawing because we are going to freehand the drawing, and I have all these steps. This is our first step. It goes down, as you probably can see, and I will help you mix all the colors. And I'm always suggesting, if you want to change it at all, this is completely an organic, your own drawing. You can change the background a little bit if you want to do like a darker color. I know we only have those purple or green, but if you mix them together, you can make some really neat grays, which we will be doing as well. But the first step what we're going to do is we're going to go with the center here, and then we're going to draw the petals out. Okay, so if you want to watch me first, that's fine. Or if you can kind of judge it, we're going to go right to the middle, pretty much the middle of our canvas, and slightly to the left of the center. And this is where we're going to draw the center of our flower. And now if this center is off slightly and is to the right or to the left, it's not going to really matter. You guys can adjust it on your own. So we'll just do a nice oval, kind of an almond-shaped circle, right smack in the center of your canvas. So once you get that in there, we are going to draw kind of like a little semicircle. We can erase our pencil marks on our canvas if need be, but what we're going to do is just from here to here, it's about 1 inch off the canvas. Our flower is like 1 inch off the side of the canvas. So this is how our drawing is going to go. So just kind of bring around like a semicircle, just to give you a guide of where your petals are going to go. Okay? So now, once you have this semicircle here, this curve, you're going to start your drawing right from the center, and you're going to end at this line here that you just drew. So this is just your guide. So you're just going to do semicircles. And just go all the way around where the ends touch as points. I have about 6 petals or 5, whatever you want to do. They can be skinnier on one side. They don't have to be as thick. They don't have to be perfectly, I mean, these are actually different there, but I'm just showing you it's just a curve. Okay, so now that we have our flower established, hopefully it looks something like that. If not, it's okay too. Let's draw in our stem. Our stem just shoots down. If it comes right from the center of this, just imagine it comes right down. And you're going to go right off the canvas, okay? And you can just do a light curve and go right off the edge. And it gets thicker at the bottom, or just make it nice and straight, whatever you want to do. It's a little curve. And with our drawing, as we paint, you can fill in your lines or paint outside of your lines, because our background is actually going to be last. So anything that we do, we can cover up any mistakes with our background. Okay, our next step, we're going to draw the butterfly. Right on top of our center of our flower, we're going to have three little little ovals. You see that? Let's start with let's see, I think it's the thorax right here in the middle. And it's just slightly above, because you'll have some space for little legs, which we will draw in with pencil actually at the end. If you keep your light background like I did, the pencil will work just fine to draw in those little legs. All right, so you've got your thorax. And now we can put in a little abdomen. It's actually supposedly a little bit bigger, but it doesn't have to be. Again, this butterfly is a magical butterfly, right? I don't know, it could be completely made up. And then a little head. A little bit smaller head, a little circle. All right, mine's kind of different already. And if you want to just add like the little antenna, just so you know where it's going, you can do that. But we're going to paint over that with our background. Okay, so next we're going to add our big wing. Now our wing is going to be about 1 inch from the top of our canvas, okay, and about 1 inch from the right side of your canvas. If you want to draw a little dot right there and up here to see where you're going, I mean, actually you can go over here. But what we're going to do is one big swoop. Another one like what we did here for the flower, just one big swoop, so it's a guide, and it's going to touch right at the back of this butterfly, okay? So let's just go for it. Just draw it down. If you mess up, you can redo it, and then come up to the side here. Whatever you do at this point, this is a side view of a butterfly, and I did that for a reason, so you don't have to worry about being perfect. It's just whatever is. The other wing is going to look just like that. It's just closed, so you don't have to worry about it. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is right from where the head is, we're going to draw this line, kind of a curved line. This is going to be his back wing. And we're going to just connect it to the end. So now we have this big almond shape. And here, this can be up to you. You can get as creative as you want. I mean, this is what I ended up with for this original, but you could go round, you could go swirly, you could go in, whatever you want to do. But sticking with my original, it's just kind of a little, just connect it, a little swoop. Mine's a little different than the original already. I can see it, but it's going to be fine because, again, it's a butterfly, right? I'm not naming this a monarch or any specific type. This is going to be a magical butterfly. Now the leaves, I'm going to pretend, say this is the stem. Instead of having a leaf coming straight out from the top here, which you can, I'm going to pretend the leaf is coming out from below. And I'm just going to add a little, kind of like a triangle. You see? It's a little different than what I did already. So I'm doing a couple of pencil marks. This is called a sketch. Go ahead and sketch in until you like your shape. We're going to paint right over it. And so on this side, same thing. You can just add a leaf to this side. Whatever shape comes out, it's really fine. It's organic. No leaves are the same. No flowers are the same. This is going to be whatever it is that you make. That is the flower you're going to make. All right, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to clean that up, finish up your drawing. Not sure if you need more time.
Right, so while you're giving us some time, so
yeah.
Jenny was having a great time, and you're doing great, so pretty. The more wine I sip, the prettier the painting will be. Okay.
Yes, that does work. Let's continue on. All right, so now we're going to get into the paint. We've got the hard part done, really. So we've got our drawing in there. So go ahead and shake up the purple paint. Good dollop of purple in a corner here. Spoonful. Brand new brushes probably have like a little bit of sizing or glue on your brush. So go ahead and give it a rinse in your water real quick. And hopefully you have some paper towels or napkins with you. Squeeze out with your napkin, just squeeze out your brush. We don't want a lot of water. Every time we rinse and wash out our colors, just jam it in the bottom of the cup real good, and then squeeze it out with the napkin every single time so we don't get too much water in our paint. If it gets too wet, it kind of tends to be watercolor. It'll be make kind of a mess for you. Looking at our step guide here, we're just going to outline our petals in this purple. Real easy, get ourselves into it. We're going to press down pretty hard with this brush. It's just going to paint, you're just going to use that straight purple. You know what, while we're at it, go ahead and grab your white. Let's put a little bit of white on our plate too, so you don't have to take a second to do that. Grab your white and squeeze it out in the corner there. You can do another small pile. You can always get more. All right. So let's go ahead and take our brush, which is our workhorse tonight, is just this green brush here, and you're going to dip it straight into the purple. Start outlining. I would always, these long brush strokes, the shape of the petal. Don't go back and forth like a horizontal. That doesn't make any sense, right? So just start from the center and then do just where you drew it. And just go ahead and outline it. Again, if you go outside of your lines, it's okay. We're going to be putting in quite a bit of color on these petals and the background. So go ahead and take just a few seconds to add some straight purple on the outside of your petals. And these petals, I mean, if they don't come to a point like mine, that's fine. If they're a little more round, that's fine. If they even droop, that's fine. If they're bent, that's fine. Get the picture? Anything goes. It's a flower. You're putting in these little strokes here. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush. Your objective is to cover up this canvas the best we can. We don't want the white showing for this part anyway. So go ahead and just add a pretty good amount of paint to your petal. So we're moving along. I'm pushing down pretty hard. I'm not doing this like a little chisel. See how thin that line is? I'm not doing that. I'm just pressing straight down. And it's a little strokey. You see the little streak there? It's okay, because we're going to add some white to this paint, and we're going to fill in the rest of that petal. As it gets lighter to the top and the center, it'll just make it look like it's round. If you look at this example, you can see that. And once you've got all the way to the edge here, it's okay if you filled in. You can even fill in just a little bit. Okay? All right, that's all that little picture is, that first picture in the right. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start that third picture. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask you to just, without rinsing your brush, we're going to just dip right into some white. And we're going to add white straight to the top of this flower. And I'll show you mine. It's going to blend on the canvas, so it's going to be like a light violet. If you just kind of go over your strokes, but not all the way. We're going to leave some of that dark purple showing through to kind of give it dimension, because the bottom of the petal is going to be darker for the shadow. But if you add just a touch of white to the top of these petals and blend it in a little bit, it's going to kind of pop and it's going to look like it's a round petal. We can always go back and add more dark purple into it, but let's just fill this up a little bit with a little bit of white. And you see how it's just kind of mixing and blending on the canvas? Hopefully that's working out for you. If it's really white, maybe you have a white flower. Maybe that's what it wants to be, but it should be a light violet, a light purple. And see how you can fill up any canvas that's showing through if you missed it with your dark purple stroke. Really just supposed to be a free and relaxing technique, because I remember you guys, some of you are so particular and they want it perfect straight lines. That's not really the design here. It's really just a loose stroke just to loosen you guys up. It's not meant to be perfect. But the next step is we're going to paint this butterfly wing with this light purple. All right, so go ahead and make a little bit more. Just add, see how I'm pulling this paint to the center? I'm not mixing my piles completely like this. I'm just pulling some white to the middle and pulling a little bit of the purple into the middle, and then just make a little pile of the light purple. So I'm not messing up all my paint. Does that make sense? Because sometimes you want to stir up everything, which you don't need to do that. You're just going to make this little pile. a pretty good pile actually, because we're going to cover this big space of a wing. So keep mixing until you get to a light violet, and you've got a nice pile. And then we're just gonna, this is a great time to fix your drawing, shape up the edges. You can fix anything that you may have messed up or you didn't like, and you're just gonna fill in. I would suggest big strokes like this. Straight down, make sure you have enough paint on your brush, and go back often for it, and then just follow your edges. You press down and you make a big wide stroke. Do you see that? That's why this brush is so nice. So you can get all kinds of different angles and edges with it. All right, and then fill in. I wouldn't go back and forth again. Just kind of go with the shape of the wing, what you think it is. So we're going to stop maybe right here and just fill in this top part. Make sure you have enough paint. And go all the way around the edge. Now if you mess up with your paint here, this will dry, and then you can clean up that edge with the background paint once we go to that step. Okay, so no stress. If you do happen to big splodge of paint on the canvas when you didn't want to do that, you can have a wet towel or a wet napkin close by, and you just scrub it. It'll come right off. If the paint is still wet, you can scrub it right off. Okay, so fill in your butterfly wing. And now I'm going to do the bottom half. It doesn't have to be perfectly filled in, and if it's a little streaky, that is okay, because we're going to be adding all these different spots on top of it. Lots of layers to go on top to fill in, but a pretty good layer so you don't see the canvas showing through. And just keep working it till you get that all filled in. And if your paint color, if you need to remix, that's fine too. It's, like I said, it's going to be covered up with all the spots that we're going to be doing. When you're done with that, you can actually put your brush in the water. We're going to rinse it out, and we're also going to add black to our plate. Well, hopefully you have your light purple in. This set is drying. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit straight black to our center of the flower and the body of the butterfly. So it's basically black, okay, with a tiny bit of purple. Will just help take the edge off. It's black is actually pretty transparent, this one anyway. So that will just help it to cover up our canvas a little bit more. Okay, so this is the easy part. You're just going to fill in, and just be careful at this point. This black, once you put it on there, it's going to be hard to take it off. So just fill in your body the easiest or the best way you can. And I'm using it as a pencil this time, so I'm not pressing down like I did up here. It's going to make a nice tiny mark. If you very lightly press on the canvas, let it touch that wing, and then just fill in that little body. If you need to get more paint, get more paint. You need to have enough paint on there so it will cover that white part of the canvas. Alright, just go ahead and fill in the abdomen. And the little head. Now, let's do the center of the flower. Same thing, a dark color, black, and maybe a little bit of the purple in there. And just go ahead and round it out. Now, the circle is going to touch all your petals that you made. If not, cover up just a little bit. The edges, just make sure all your petals connect. But it's really a flat oval. So, and then I do have some space between the butterfly and the flower just to have some room for the little legs, but if your butterfly is sitting right on top, that is okay. It's not going to hurt anybody. He's just at a different angle, that's all. Okay. Now do the stem and the leaves. So rinse out your brush when you're done with the black, and get your napkin and squeeze out that water again.
Hey, my butterfly wing looks like a kidney. So, are you gonna shape it out and stuff, right?
You said kidney? Well, yeah, if you want to make it like more of a point, or it could be rounded, I don't think, but the background you can shape it again with our background a little bit if you want. Yeah.
There is hope.
There, and since you're at home, you can paint that background 100 times until it's completely covered. So you're good. You're in good shape. All right. Okay, so we have our brush. It's been rinsed out. Let's go right into, oh, we got to get green on our plate. So grab your green paint. And I'm pretty sure we all have the same shades of green this year. I know last year that was fun. We had a supply issue because of COVID. So I don't know. I'm using true green. I don't know what you guys have, but whatever green.
I have the regular green too.
True green? Okay. Yeah, well, there you go. It's pretty bright. It's a little brighter than what I used in my original, but we can darken it or lighten it with that black and the white. So the first thing I'd like you to do is actually we're going to darken it just a tiny bit. So take your green. I've got a little pile. You've got the four corners of the colors here. And I'm just going to pull a little bit out to the side. And let's darken it just a tiny bit by just a little bit of black. Like a tiny tip of your brush, because black is very strong. That's why I wanted to rinse our brush. And it should make it a darker green. Now if it's too dark, you can always add more of this green into it and lighten it back up. Really, whatever you prefer at this point. If you like the brighter greens, then great. I kind of dulled my greens down in the other painting, so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. But if you like that bright green, go for it. All right, so all we're going to do is, for this, you might want to hold your panel up since we're going to be painting right off the edge. But we're just going to follow our stem straight down and fix your drawing. If it's too fat, like my bottom here is a little fat, but it's really not that bad. But if you want to fix your drawing at all, what you're going to do is you're going to go underneath your petal. Like me, I had my stem come from behind the petal. So if you're like that, just start from there and bring right down. It's kind of hard to keep your hands steady standing and holding at the same time, but do your best. You can always lay this down on the table too if you need to. And I'm going to add a little bit of a curve here. All right, and so again, the lighter touch. Try not to push too hard because this is a thinner area. Technically this brush is pretty thick, but for this time you just got to go real light and then you will have a point. All right, so straight off the canvas there. And I'm going to go ahead and go with that same color, and we're going to start from the top and then kind of just bring it down and pick your favorite drawing that you have there. Again, the background color can fix any of your little mistakes. Do the same on this side. Now, this is our base color, and I'm going to highlight this leaf. I'm going to have darker green, even more dark green on the bottom, and I'm going to have a lighter green on the top. And that will give it some shape. So, we have these dark leaves in and a dark stem. And since we have this green on our brush, I'm actually going to darken it a little bit more by adding another dab of black to my pile. Not too much, but just a little bit. We're going to darken it even more. And just a thin couple of strokes right at the very bottom, just to kind of give it some dimension. Not all the way to the top. So on both sides, just a little brush here, like a half brush stroke up to about the middle of it. While this paint is still wet, you can kind of blend it in a little bit. I'm also going to add this darker green to the center. If you have any space like I do, I'm going to add a little bit of this green like as if it's the base of the flower below the center. So just add a little bit of green in here like where the stem would be. Just a tiny bit. Try not to go too crazy. You don't have to get too crazy with just to give a hint that your stem is going somewhere, right? It's holding up this flower. And with this darker green, with the one that we put the black in, I'm going to add it to the back of this stem as well, giving a little bit of a second coat. The shadow from the flower is going to be on top, so it's going to be kind of dark right here. Now I know this looks really dark right now because we haven't added any of the highlights, so we are going to add highlights next. So don't get worried. We've got our light and our dark green, or a medium and dark green. And now I want you to just touch your white paint and mix in from that same color, whatever medium color that you made, any of those greens to be honest, just put some white right in there and mix around and see what happens. You're gonna have a nice light green, a different shade. Look at all those different shades of green. Okay, now we're gonna use this as our highlight. And that's just a couple of strokes right on the top of this leaf. And I keep lifting this up. I guess it's helpful, I'm not sure. But I'm looking at what I had before. It looks like I just did some strokes right on the top and kind of curved down with it. Just kind of blends it in. Now the paint is a little dry, but it's okay if you kind of scratch it in there a little bit if it's a little sketchy kind of look. All right, so just a few strokes on the top of your leaf. You see what happened? It just kind of made it pop. And I'm actually going to probably add a little bit more white to my green, and it can get even lighter. And have just the tip. Watch what happens. Just a tip. Makes it look like it's sticking up into the sun. See that? So just over here. Just bring a couple of strokes down. You see that? I might add a little bit of that lighter green, just a touch of it down on my stem here. Real lightly, just kind of give it some sun is hitting there too. Just to make it pop a little bit. So just mess around with that and you can just shape it. If you went too crazy with the light green, you can add your dark green back in there. You're just trying to shape it. Now because we have the dark green up here and it's coming underneath it, it looks like there's light coming down and there's a shadow there. And then the light's peeking through and hitting the tips of these leaves. Just trying to give it some dimension and make it look a little real. All right, so now we're going to get into some of this fun stuff, these butterfly wings. If we're at this step now, if you can see, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're moving right along here. With this green, this darker green, go ahead and grab some of that on your brush again and just make a few strokes. If you can see that, I'm just going to put a few strokes of like a round on the top of this flower. Now you can wait and do this with some gray, but I'm just adding a little bit of the green and I'll put some gray on top of that. Do you see what I just did? I'm just adding just a touch, just to kind of make it look like it's round. Let me show you up close. I don't know if you can see it. Just giving it a little bit, do you see how I did that? Just adding a little dimension. I'm starting to make this look round now. I did a little bit on the top of this guy's body, just a little bit. Just a couple like little dry brush strokes just to make it shaped a little bit. So it's not a solid stroke. Let me pull it up high close. You see how I did that? Just a little bit. And I'm using green just to tie this green color all the way through the whole painting, just to design it. I don't know how many butterfly bodies have green on them, but this one does. Now this is where it's going to get fun and you guys might get stressed, like it's not perfectly the same as mine, and this is where it doesn't matter, really. It's going to be whatever shape you come up with is going to be it. It's going to be great. But right now, rinse out your brush. And let's do some straight purple. I'm following this step 5. You see how I outline my wing? That's what we're doing right now, okay? So with just some straight purple, we're going to outline the wing just so that we can see where we're going. Now when I say outline, a few brush strokes, not solid. You can see from that picture, I'll show you from here. All I did was like I started up top and I got real thick right here. Just added some lines. We are going to cover these lines with dots and all kinds of stuff, so even black in a minute. But I'm just getting it a little bit of, and I'm going to lift it up right here. So I pushed down hard here, and I lifted it up right here to make it nice, and it just kind of fades away. You see that? That's what I did on this painting, but you can change it up. Honestly, you can change it up. Anything goes. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to outline the second wing. Remember this base wing kind of goes like this. We painted it so you can't really see your pencil mark. Go ahead and add a stroke of purple in there to kind of bring it back to life. See what that just does? It helps you see your wing. Now I'm just going to lift it up, and again, I'm going to just give it a thinner edge down here. And then I'm going to add one more thick stroke down the bottom. And this again, you could cover up any mistakes, but with whatever you did, you can make your little wing into a point. I see this original, I have a little point here. You can add that in, you can add it in now or later, whatever you want to do. I'll just add it in now. I'm trying my hardest to do exactly the same, but it's hard sometimes. Each painting wants a life of its own, you know? You guys definitely know that, right? Okay. With this purple on your brush, you can touch up anything that you need to at this point, but we're going to rinse out our brush here in a second, and we're going to make that pale green that's in the wings. So grab some green. You can mix it with that pile that you had before. Just pull some green. The other paint's probably almost dry already. Grab a dab of white. So we just have green and white here. Now it's pretty bright. That's pretty saturated still. Even with the white, it's saturated, okay? So all we're going to do is we're going to dab into the purple, and it's going to actually dim it down and gray it down. So add a little purple and see what happens. It'll mute it down. I'm going to get it quite a bit. And I also want to add some more white because I don't want it to be too dark. So a pretty pale green, and I'm going to put more purple in there. Let's see. Get to a point where you like that color. And I'm going to just test it with a little bit of black and see what happens. Add the tiniest bit of black and it'll gray it down even more. Alright, so do you see what I've got here? Kind of like a pale green. What do I say? It's not an army green. It is just a pale muted green. Put it in. So I left a little bit of that light purple showing, and I made a little shape. Okay, so there's one shape. I'm going to add my next shape. We're just kind of filling it in. I broke it up there for whatever reason. Your shape could be different. And now for the bottom, I did one big, large one, but I left a big amount showing here. So look, just take your pen or your brush and make a shape down there and leave a little bit of that lighter purple outline. Grab some more paint and fill that in. All right, and you do not have to be like super perfect and get these lines. I mean, you're going to have so many little dots on there, you're never going to notice it. I don't know. If you looked real hard at this original, you can't really see. But there are little stroke marks throughout the whole thing. I mean, unless you really want to be perfect, I wouldn't stress about it. Just a brush stroke, okay? But we're going to go straight into black again. So go ahead and rinse out your green. We're doing a lot of rinsing today. Let's take our straight black and we're going to add a little bit of purple to it again, just because straight black is transparent like I said. Let's do a little bit of the purple into our black again. And you'll see it's still very black, right? It's just kind of gives it a little bit of a gray tint. Alright, so that'll just cover better. Now, let me do this stroke. You guys can watch me real quick because I think this stroke is kind of neat if you want to add it to it. But right here, I add this real fat stroke. But what I did is I pressed hard and then I slowly pulled away from the canvas as I went along. Let me show you. I just added this big blob of paint. See how I squeezed it down? And then I'm just going to drag it over what I had before. Make sure you have enough paint. I didn't have enough paint, so do it again. And then just drag it at wherever you want. It looks like I went all the way to the edge of that wing. So press down and then slowly pull up and drag it to the end. You see what I just did? Pretty simple, but you just gotta intentionally push down and then slowly pull away. One big stroke. See if you can do it. If you can't, it's okay. If you need to go back in, try it. See what happens. Once you've done that, we're gonna do the next one is another same kind of a thing, and I went over the bottom half of the wings. Pressed down hard here, and I didn't cover up that purple completely, but I went kind of over it. I see that I dragged that color all the way down. Alright. And pressed down and then pulled it and got thinner and thinner and thinner. Can you see what I did if it's easier up close? Just gets thinner. I am now just going to keep a close eye on this paper. So if you have that in front of you, hopefully you still do, let's just go with the flow here. I'm going to try to fill in what I did and see if we can't repeat what I made. Alright, I'm going to go with all these little splotches of, all these different little patterns that I made, and I just did this, filled up my paintbrush with my black. And I probably added a little purple to it again, and a little green maybe. It's still very dark color. And I just went over top of whatever I did. I just added it in. So I just did a splotch there. And if you want to get smaller, just a lighter touch, that's all. See how easy that is? You just follow along with what you did. Splat, splat, splat. Make sure you have enough paint. I'm running out of paint. If you really load up the paint on this part, it'll kind of stick out, which will be neat for your finished painting. So it'll give a little texture maybe. I mean, this acrylic paint dries pretty flat, so it might not, but it will give it a good amount of paint there. It will be interesting and it'll cover really nicely. So make sure you have enough paint on your brush. So I'm going to just add a few dots down here, and I see that I didn't even do that. I'm going to do a little blotch there, and I did a shape there. Still on this black color, and I see I went to the bottom here a little bit, and I went through, and I stayed on the green for this one, and just a couple different strokes. These are curvier, these are blockier. I didn't rinse out my brush. I'm just going to grab some purple and mix in the middle of my plate and see what color it comes up. I can add some white to it. Since these are all just random mixes and grays, I'm making a purple gray by not cleaning my brush. Grab the pile of that purple, put it in the middle of the plate, add a little white to it, and you will have a violet gray. It will be definitely subdued. It will be very muted. And now I'm going to use this color. It looks good enough to me. It's the difference. It's lighter than the background. And I'm going to use it right here. I think what I did, I went ahead and, I went this way. There was a spot right here. And yes, I'm covering up my black because I think I did it in the wrong spot. And I'm going to add it right here. Another one there. I'm trying to keep these spots on the top part of it, and then these are separate design, still similar but a separate. I'm just talking you through what I'm doing here, but you guys can do really whatever you want at this point. I know I keep saying that, but you really can. This is the fun part. Just kind of have fun with it. And if I'm going too fast, if you're copying me exactly, I am sorry. I'm just trying to go ahead and fill in what I see from this final picture. That's all I'm looking at is this final picture. I'm doing these purple colors underneath those white spots. I'm going to slowly lighten this color up to eventually have the brightest highlights showing. But since I have this grayish purple on my brush, I'm going to add a few little dots on the bug's body. Just a couple to kind of give him a little more dimension. You can, if you want to. And I'm also going to touch my flower top just a little bit to just tie in these colors through the whole thing. Just tying in. If you want to use this purple color to do anything to your petals again, I mean, if you like the way your petals look, you can add some to it. I mean, this is a grayish color. Look, I'm just going to show you what happens. I'm going to add a little bit of this gray into the petals, just a little bit. See if you like that. It just gives it variation, so This is what I'm talking about when the painting kind of takes a life of its own. You can kind of mess with it, see what happens. You don't have to do that though. It's going to get a lighter gray. So this isn't the final highlight, but just add some white to your brush and it's going to be kind of a muted purple, a lighter muted purple. All right, so let's put some spots of that on there. Let's see what happens. Mine is looking pretty dark compared to this one, but on the final picture, for whatever reason, I decided to put in this huge white oval at the top. And I'm just gonna go with the flow here and try to match it. And I'm covering this right up and I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna see what happens. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But mine got covered up. So I did it. What the heck? And I think I have this color. I put it right here to lighten up this area. I put a stroke right here. You can add this anywhere you want. Some big circles, and all I do is press down on the brush to make kind of like a circle. Got to have a lot of paint on your brush to do that. Add a little variation with the color and the strokes for my final picture, and I just kind of varied the sizes. I'm going to add some of this color right to the edge of this and fix my boo-boo right here, which I did. You can use this for whatever. To his body. And a little dot on his head with this color. I'm going to add a few little dots, random sizes up here. I'm not completely covering the whole flower head there. I'm just adding a few random dots just to kind of give it some variation there. Hopefully I'm not confusing you. So I just rinsed that out to go with some straight white, and I'll start with those white dots first, and then you can always tint that white down with some other colors. This is your brightest color now. Can't get any brighter than this. And let's see, I'm gonna go starting from the top here. I'm gonna make these dots all down my wing here. So try to stay within your wing, and they're just little presses of the brush. Make sure you have enough paint. Trying to make them kind of uniform, but if they're not, again, it's not too big of a deal. I see I added some big dots right through the base of this. You can kind of twist the brush if you want, make a little circle. I tend to just put a big push of the brush on there and then slowly get smaller. That black stroke that we put in there should be dry by now for you. You can be able to push right into it. Just go.
Daisy.
What?
Makes me look like a taco or something. And a big dollop of daisy.
It is. It's a dollop of daisy. That's what this
I
is.
haven't had dinner yet, so I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
quesadillas, tacos.
Well, are you in Florida? You're going to be starving. It's 10 o'clock.
I know. So, I've been eating cashews, so I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, you can spend all night with these dots if you want, so don't stress. I am going to show you this next step. I know there's plenty more dots that I could do, but I'm going to take my straight white and I'm going to add to my little bit of purple and just have a nice bright light purple. And I'm going to add some, see? And I just kind of with the same stroke we did up here, I just pressed down and then I dragged it and I pulled away. So it kind of tails off. If you're scared to do this, just try it. And if you don't like it, you can always bring dark purple back in. But I'm trying to pretend that the sun is coming down this way. This is what I'm picturing in my mind, right? It's coming kind of straight down. So the tops are going to be highlighted. It's not going to be all the way to the edge. It's just going to be the top. And you can dry brush drag it down too. Like just don't cover up every single couple strokes there. And you will have this effect that kind of blends on its own. You see what I'm doing here? And then I'm just kind of adding light strokes to fill it in. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I think my dark purple is darker than my original, but that is okay. So you can just take this and lightly stroke around and just kind of bring those petals all in. You see what I'm doing? I lightened it up probably too much, but so it's kind of like a dry brush stroke here. Just a little bit there and a little bit here. Just this final bit on top of the flower, and I may have had some straight white as well, but that just will give you a little bit of a highlight on the tip of your flower. I'm going to go with this color and add to the top of these purple marks. Now these purple marks that we made are probably dry enough to where I can just go on top of there and add some little dots. And I'm going to do some right here. So you just keep touching anywhere you want. I'm going to bring this color right on top. Alright, we are almost done with these dots, and if you already are done with these dots and you've had enough, that is great. What we're going to do is do the background last here in this green here, and I'm going to make some more dots. Just keep...
While you're making dots, we have a couple more images that are coming in. So
perfect.
We have...
Good. Well, basically, I mean, I will start on my background and you guys can see what I do, and then you guys can hit that background anytime you're ready. You can put as many dots as you want. Good pile. Whatever it is that you're going to use, make sure you make enough mixture so that you don't have to remix it in the middle, because it will be hard to match it exactly while you're doing it, and then you're going to want to go back and touch all the stuff that you did before. It's a pain, so make sure you have enough in that. And I would use your green brush to make your pile of paint that you use for your background, and start there, and then you can go ahead and use your brush first to kind of go around all the tinier parts of the flower and around the body to get all those tiny little cracks, and then you're going to go back with your big sponge brush. It'll just help it spread out in those larger areas. That will be your final. And you go ahead and mix. I've got a good pile of white here. If you want to do this pale green, I literally would take one little touch of the green and add it to it. It's meaning very light. Paint, this acrylic paint usually dries a darker shade of what it is wet. I don't know if you've noticed that yet. But and we're going to just start edging everything, and then go back with your sponge brush and fill in. So you've got your pile of paint, and don't stress too much, but this is where you can fix any of your mistakes as well. And you may need 2 coats with this, with the white. If it's showing through, if it's a dark color that you're trying to hide, you might have to go back in with a second coat once it dries. But be a little careful around his little body. This is going to be your hardest part. And around those petals, but if you reshape them, that's okay too. And if you have too much paint on your brush, you got to go in and... So that's a tip. When you get your paintbrush and you twist it on the edge of your paint, it'll make it into a point if it's too much paint there, and that will give you more of a point to get into those small little cracks. So try that if you're having trouble getting in there. Don't worry about being nice and smooth. They will dry flat, but if you pile it on, it might give it a little rippled texture effect, which is kind of neat. So just go right around all those little nooks and crannies. You can take this big sponge brush and just help push it around. Otherwise, just use your little brush and use it the whole time. If you have a Sharpie, a fine tip Sharpie, you can draw in his little legs and antenna and sign it even, or when it's dry, I just used the pencil and it worked out pretty good, so you can still see it. You need to sign it somewhere, and what I did for my original, I think I just put my little initials right on the side of the leaf, or you can sign it on the back and date it. Make sure you know when you did this. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope it does bring you some kind of new beginnings, beautiful transition vibe. Not a painful journey tonight. No tears.
Even on virtual, you make it awesome experience. So.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. Good night. Thank you.